So let's talk a little bit more about Clemson's win, road win in Lane Stadium against the Virginia Tech Hokies. So what was so crazy about that game is that, you enter the game not feeling good at all. You played 4 just bad quarters, thoroughly outplayed for the most part against Louisville. Even when the Clemson was racking up yardage in the fourth quarter against Louisville, they were slow. They were plodding down the field, kind of playing into what Louisville wanted as they burned too much clock, had a field goal blocked late in that game that sort of ended their hopes. So a pretty bad game against Louisville. Obviously, Virginia Tech had a disappointing loss for them against Syracuse, but nonetheless, Clemson's not feeling good. Then they come in, and now they're without Peter Woods. They're without DeMonte Capehart, 2 absolutely critical, probably their best 2 defensive linemen. They're without both of them, and Virginia Tech's not a great passing team, but they could run it. The defense showed up a week late because this is where it's so surprising. Their defense has been bad against the run all year, and they got eaten alive against Louisville. Come in to Lane Stadium where you think, oh boy, this is going to be brutal. Now you don't have your best defensive end and probably best player. You don't have your best defensive tackle and Capehart, and this team wants to run it. And for some reason, Clemson's able to stop them. I don't know what they figured out or what they adjusted that exactly caused that. But one thought is they started Sammy Brown, the freshman linebacker, and he was awesome. So they switched to a 3-4 and started Sammy Brown into the starting lineup. And with that lineup or on the game, the Hokies averaged under 2 yards a carry, 1.9 yards per carry. They finished with 40 on the day. Sammy Brown led all Clemson Tigers with 8 tackles. He led all Clemson Tigers with 2.5 tackles for loss, one of which was a sack, the only sack Clemson got on the game. He was Clemson's star on defense. I thought he was great. Clemson's got to keep starting him. I mean, even when Woods and Capehart get back, we've been talking, on our Bunches channel. Thanks for the folks who chat Clemson football on the Bunches channel. We've been talking, just on X. Maybe Clemson needs to go to a 3-4 because the defensive end play hasn't been great. And you see them go to a 3-4 without, 2 of their most critical players. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's why this defense was so much better. I know it's different opponents, so maybe it was Virginia Tech. Maybe they didn't play well. But what a performance by this defense. And the secondary was great too. Ashton Hampton, true freshman. He played a lot in coverage. He had one of the best interceptions of the season. He got, I don't even want to say beat, but he allowed a reception and he didn't really do anything wrong. It was pretty good defense. Virginia Tech goes right back to the same guy, Ashton Hampton's, that Ashton Hampton is defending, and he somehow gets his hand in there and just pulls it out one-handed for an incredible interception, shows his athleticism, his hands, his strength, really impressive. R.J. Mickens, the veteran safety, also had an interception. His more about football IQ and being in the right place, reading the eyes of the quarterback and sort of fooling him. 2 really good interceptions there by 2 really good players. I think both of them. Mickens, at the tail end of his Clemson career, has been a guy that's contributed and been underrated. Sort of my soapbox is that he's Clemson's most underrated player. And I still believe that. And then Ashton Hampton is sort of maybe the next in line, great Clemson cornerback. Clemson used to be wide receiver I think now they're cornerback you. And Ashton Hampton's next in line after Avion Terrell seems to be the next first rounder. The other thing, the elephant in the room here is they had that other kick blocked. So first half, I don't understand why the offense came out as bad as it did. I guess part of it is the offensive line had some injuries. So Marcus Tate was out coming into the game. I think that hurt a lot. Harris Sewell played some left guard. And really I don't want to put it on him. I thought the entire interior of the offensive line struggled. Tristan Lee, left tackle, he got hurt early. I mean, he was fine when he was on the field, but he got hurt early, ankle injury. And Blake Miller, at least from my brief eye test, he seemed like he looked good. But the interior of that line was getting beat up all day. And I think that was a problem, at least in the first half. Elijah Thurman came in to spell Lee when he left with injury. I thought Thurman was really good. So I really thought the tackles, even after the injury, remained really strong. Some trouble on the interior, though. And as a result, Klubnik was hurried. He was kind of discombobulated. So I thought that was the biggest part that caused the offensive struggles early was the interior offensive line and what that did trickle down. I also thought Wesco and the wide receivers in general in the first half looked off from what we saw earlier in the year. Instead of making explosive plays, being really sure-handed, there were some drops. They didn't play well. I thought they took a step back. In the second half, all of a sudden, that changed. But before we get there, got to talk about special teams. I don't know. I don't think it's Nolan Hooser kicking it too low. They keep showing the replay. It seems like it's always on the left side. This one, to me, didn't look that bad in terms of blocking. In terms of effort of the blockers, there's one guy, and he's on Clemson, and he's trying to block two guys bull rushing. I mean, is that normal? Is he supposed to be able to hold them both back? He seems like he gives a great effort, and they push him back some. So maybe it's a little bit of scheme, and maybe the kicks are a little low. I'm not sure. I'm hesitant to blame a kicker when he's literally never missed a field goal unless it was blocked, right? So that makes me think Hooser's pretty good. It's really vexing that Clemson, with all their resources, elite coaches, in at least in some of them, right? And they can't figure this out. Two block kicks against Florida State, 2 block kicks swing the game pretty significantly against Louisville, and then another block kick that potentially could have swung the game, definitely swung the momentum with a return for a touchdown in this one. You've got to figure that out. But more broadly, this offseason, Clemson's got to figure out why are they always struggling on special teams? Why is special teams going all the way back to 2015 when they lost the national championship and they got beat on an onside kick and a kickoff return? They've had they had BT Potter, who's a really good kicker. It's not that they never have good players in special teams, but generally speaking, their special teams, the scheming, the overall special team is not outstanding. It's much more often a problem than it is something special, with the exception of BT Potter being a good kicker. That's something they gotta really figure out this offseason. And so the second half, that as soon as it starts, it's a different Clemson offense. They move down the field really quickly. Cade Klubnik was great on the ground. He had 2 different 13-yard rushes that set him up on the 29-yard line. And then he fires actually a not that great pass to Cole Turner. Leaves it a little short, which allows the defensive back to actually make a play on the ball and get kind of physical with Turner. And Turner reels it in, really good physical catch there, goes up and wins a jump ball kind of thing. And he stands over the DB and kind of honestly taunts him a little bit. He gets a penalty for that, and it's wrong. You shouldn't do that. But that was also the turning point where this offense kind of woke up, started playing really well from that. That was sort of the turning point of the game. Virginia Tech immediately goes 3 and out. They actually lost 6 yards on their next drive. And then there's the play of the game. If you haven't seen it, you gotta look it up. It'll be linked in the TigerNet article that accompanies this video. But Klubnik should have been sacked. He somehow braces himself on the ground with his hand, avoids the sack, runs to the right, fires a dart to TJ Moore, who's wide open, 41-yard touchdown. That gives Clemson, it's only a 14-7 lead. Game almost felt over at that point. Virginia Tech can't do anything. Clemson gets the ball again. They punt, but they get it back later. 93-yard touchdown drive that Brinkstool sort of barrels into the end zone, uses some strength. He really had a good drive on that one, and it was a good touchdown. And that puts him up 21-7. Virginia Tech's not doing much. Clemson has the ball in Virginia Tech territory pretty late, and it's an obvious field goal situation. But after the block, you almost wonder, are they just going to run it because a kick has almost more downside than upside? But they go for the field goal. It's perfectly blocked or perfectly protected, and Hooser makes it just like he does every time that is appropriately protected. That's why I don't give him too much trouble. I think Hooser's a really good kicker. And that puts Clemson up 24-7, ends the game. VT scores a garbage time touchdown, but it doesn't matter. Good solid win against a okay, not terrible Virginia Tech team. Let's see some of these comments. Yeah, Mike Reed he got added, or it was at special teams was added to his job title this year. Obviously, the results haven't been there. Yeah, I don't know. I just, it's hard to, unless you're in the offices It's hard to know what his role is. Obviously, the results are not great, and now they have, I guess, unlimited coaches they could bring on. So it seems like go out, spend some money, and hire the best special teams coach you can and fix this. That's definitely a next step. But kind of speaking of those next steps, this is another weird offseason for Clemson. It feels like all these off seasons the last couple of years have been critical off seasons. Clemson's looking at, you go beat Pittsburgh, beat the Citadel, and then you got this big Palmetto Bowl. You win that. It's certainly not a total flop of a season. 10-2, you probably go to a Holiday Bowl, play maybe like a Colorado or Texas Tech. Colorado would be a lot of fun. I would love that matchup. But especially in the expanded playoff era, all bowls now that are not playoff are just exhibitions. They frankly don't matter. So no doubt it is a disappointing season. From where we were at the beginning of the year, I did pick Clemson to go 10-2, but I thought that would I thought they would sneak into the playoff with that. The way it is now, as much as the schedule has been just so much weaker than expected, they don't deserve to get into the playoff with that. The 10-2 that I expected at the beginning of the year is different than the 10-2 I expected now. I thought Virginia Tech, Florida State would be much tougher games. I thought NC State would be a much tougher game. So you gotta adjust accordingly. So a disappointing year, even at 10-2, not a total failure, but not what you expect. So what do you do this offseason? There's got to be some soul searching because Clemson has 14 commits in their upcoming recruiting class. That's the smallest recruiting class of any of the top 45 ranked recruiting classes, according to 24/7. So good quality, but very little quantity. You got to internally talk about roster management. You can't go into next season with way under 85 scholarships. That's not acceptable, obviously. Then on top of that, you lost Blake Hebert. Clemson, with him, said, hey, we're only going to take one. If you commit, he commits. That's their only quarterback for this upcoming class. He bails on them really late because Notre Dame lost their quarterback. So I'm sure there was some NIL considerations. Not really thrilled about that situation. I liked Hebert. I thought his tape looked good, even though he plays weak competition. So what do you do about quarterback? I mean, are you going to be totally okay with Klubnik, Vizina? And is that the line of succession? You could wait another year. And if you're not comfortable with Vizina, go find a transfer the next year. A defensive end, you're probably going to need a transfer. Looks like you needed one this year and you didn't get it. And then you're going to lose some defensive tackles. Presumably you're going to move Peter Woods back to defensive tackle. So you almost have to get a defensive end. So we're going to see, I think this is the most that Clemson's ever needed a transfer. And I don't mean that get a transfer to get more talented. I mean, it seems like there will be some pretty obvious holes. So if they don't add one this year, I think they're just against it. And I know that Dabo Swinney asked Coach Chris Rumpf if he wanted one after Adam Kisai left. He committed, he came to campus and then pretty much immediately transferred to Minnesota. He asked him, reportedly, according to Chris Rumpf himself, if he wanted to transfer. Rumpf said no. So it just seems like Dabo's open to it. Seems like this would be the year. Really going to be interesting this offseason. The good thing is, and I mean this genuinely, last year they were really far off. They really needed to make multiple coaching changes, and they did, to their credit. I thought they should have also taken a transfer too, but nonetheless, it was bad enough. You had to like multiple people go, which stinks. This year it's not that bad. Maybe it's little tweaks, philosophy changes, roster management stuff, but it's not as daunting of a task. So I think they're getting close. And that's really encouraging. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hang tight. We'll be right back after this really short message from our sponsor. If you enjoyed this video, please help this channel by liking the video, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Also, if you're a pet owner and you live in the upstate, check out our sponsor, Ready Vets. They offer immediate walk-in care when your pet can't wait. They're open 7 days a week till 10 p.m. They're owned by 2 Clemson grads. And they're located in Taylor's, just 10 miles from the Woodruff Road shopping. Hey, we are talking Clemson basketball. Let's dive right in. The Tigers are 2-0. They picked up an excellent win. Well, I shouldn't say an excellent win. They picked up 2 wins, which is excellent, but they were only against Charleston Southern and St. Francis, so we don't know a ton yet. They started the year 24th in KenPom, and because of their strength of schedule, they've actually dropped down 4 spots to 28th. Up next is Eastern Kentucky, which isn't going to tell you a whole lot. And then Boise, sorry for the typo there. Then it's Boise State on Sunday. But let's talk a little bit about what we learned so far. And I think it is notable, with so much roster turnover, so many new guys. I think we did learn a lot. Chase Hunter's been excellent. I think what we've seen is he looks a lot more like the guy from the NCAA tournament run than he does the guy who's wildly inconsistent throughout the season. 15 points a game. His three-point shot looks very much back. I think that's the most encouraging thing that you could see. Clemson needs him to be their star, and so far he has been. Schieffelin, I'm of two minds on Schieffelin. He certainly looked good in that second game. He's averaging 11-11. Absolutely no complaints about that. I don't think he's going to get anything near the PJ Hall role in terms of that's not the usage they plan for him. He's built to be a secondary scorer, a junkyard dog kind of guy who's going to get an offensive rebound and put it back. And that's where a lot of his points are going to come from. It's not necessarily going to be plays run for him. Now, there have been some, and after missing a couple threes early, they started to fall in that second game. But if he averages 11 and 11, I think we're really happy. He's just not going to be the PJ Hall centerpiece of the offense. And we weren't sure. We didn't necessarily expect he would be. This kind of confirms that Chase Hunter is sort of the guy. And then Jaden Zachary is running the point, which shifts Chase pretty much to a full-time shooting guard. Chase is taller, so that makes sense. Zachary, it's funny. The numbers are great. His efficiency is great. You almost don't notice that he's getting all these points. They come quietly, and that's certainly fine. He's a good three-point shooter, but it's going to be very low volume for him. And I think what stands out to me the most about him and about Clemson really so far is the guards' defense has been excellent. Zachary's a very good defender, as is Chase Hunter. And then, you've got Dylan Hunter is an excellent defensive player. His offense maybe will come around. His shooting was bad in game one. It was much better in game two. But Dylan Hunter is phenomenal defensively. And then Del Jones, the true freshman, he is just a ball of energy, and he is all over guys. When he's on, when he's playing defense on the ball, he's excellent. So the four of them could really they extend the defense beyond the 3-point line and just pester the heck out of opposing ball handlers. And that is going to be a big strength for this team, is their perimeter defense with those four guys just harassing the guards on the other team. So I think that's been great. Victor Lock-in, it's funny. You don't read it that way, but it's pronounced like lock-in, at least according to the TV announcer. So Victor Lock-in, I thought he's been good. A lot of those points come in limited minutes, as I don't know if it's fatigue or injury prevention or foul trouble or a little bit of all those. But he hasn't played quite as much for a starter, some of these other guys. But he's been good. He's not as his dexterity and finish around the rim isn't quite what I expected, but I think he's a guy that he's 6'11", and he looks like it and plays like it. He has some good basketball IQ about him. I think he's a guy that you're going to see. I expect the rebounding numbers to be better than 4, but I think, we said before the year 10 and 6 is what you're going to get. I think that's about where it's going to net out. And then Wiggins, I think he's a guy, he just looks like an NBA player for a little stretch, and then he kind of disappears for a stretch, which is sort of weird. For 6'10" guy, he really should rebound more, but overall, I've been pleased with him. He's a really high upside guy, type of guy who will average, kind of like a 9.5 points per game through the regular season. That's about what I would expect. But you could also see him going for 18 in a critical NCAA tournament game. He's got that kind of upside. He can make the three. Without length, he can really defend. So definitely happy with Chauncey Wiggins. And then by no means a surprise, but kind of a pleasant confirmation is Miles Foster. He's been excellent. He's only 6'7", but he's about 245 pounds. He's 245 according to Ken Palm. And he is just really efficient, kind of a Ian Schieffelin type in that he's a great rebounder. He's going to put the ball back, get a rebound, score, good around the basket. He's even making some threes. He's 2 for 2 for 3 so far this season. It's not a ton of volume, but if he could even do that at all, that's great. Good defensively. Been super impressed with him. Gives Clemson a lot of physicality. Very small sample size, but he and Jaden Zachary have the 2 highest offensive efficiency ratings or offensive ratings, according to Ken Palm on the season. Both are small sample size, just outrageously high. So super, super pleased with what we've gotten out of him. Would love to see the free throw shooting be better. over the course of the whole season. He's only 3 for 6 in the year, but again, small sample size, taking what we can from that. So overall, just impressed with what this team has done thus far. Of course, the competition, very, very light. Charleston Southern and St. Francis. St. Francis is 344th. And quite frankly, Clemson looked a bit disorganized, or maybe disorganized isn't the word. They looked not quite comfortable with each other yet, haven't gelled yet for big chunks of that St. Francis game, particularly in the second half. They played a strong first half, and then St. Francis actually made a run and cut it, I think it was down to like 12 or so at one point. But you could see that the talent there is there. You could see the depth is there. Alex Heidbreeder is going to be a good three-point shooter off the bench, which is what they need. Dell Jones is a freshman, true freshman, is making an impact. So they've got more depth, maybe 9 guys they trust, more than they've had in the past. So a lot of encouraging signs there. We'll just have to see how they gel. So Tuesday is Eastern Kentucky. I don't think that's a game that poses much of a threat. But then Boise State, they're 45 according to KenPom. And KenPom actually favors the Broncos, giving Clemson only a 45% chance to win that game. I don't know how I feel about that. The Broncos are 1-1 with the loss to San Francisco and win over Oakland. I know road games are tough, but I think this Clemson team will find the right gear and be pretty good and be playing at their best for that game. That's this coming Sunday. So we'll see. That's when we first start to get a good feel about this Clemson team. But so far, I'm nothing but encouraged. As always, appreciate you watching this video. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. It really helps the channel. And as always,